Jeen-Yuhs is the Kanye West documentary that Netflix has done. I believe it's going to be told over 3 parts. This is for part 1. I am loving it. What the way they got it done basically was that Cootie, you know Cootie, right? Hot Dog Cootie.
I do now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because a quarter of the documentary is about Cootie. But but yeah, so Cootie, he was hosting like a public access hip hop show in Chicago, and he was putting a lot of hip hop artists on and stuff like that. And locally, he became really well known because at the time, a lot of hip hop artists were not getting the exposure that they really deserved. It was still, you know, kind of whatever, a subgenre, and Cootie was putting a lot of people on, and he met Kanye West out there in Chicago, and everybody's talking about Kanye West, and this is when Kanye is just he's a producer. He's an aspiring rapper at this point, and he's a producer that's just starting to get put on, right? And whatever, they're talking, and Cootie really he's intrigued by this Kanye West fellow. He thinks that there's a lot there with Kanye. And so when he really realizes that he's got to stop, drop, and roll on this, because Cootie was an aspiring comedian. Cootie was doing his TV show. Cootie had a lot of hopes and dreams. But he dropped them all when Kanye basically produced most of the songs on Jay-Z's album, The Blueprint. Jay-Z's album, The Blueprint, is still, to me, and maybe it's just I'm of the generation, but it's not an untouchable hip-hop album. It's an untouchable album. The Blueprint by Jay-Z, I mean, it might be my favorite album of any genre of all time. It is incredible. And one of the things that makes it incredible is that Kanye West, who was only starting to become known at that point, produces most of the songs. He creates most of the beats, most of the instrumentals on the album are Kanye West beats. H to the Izzo. We all know H to the Izzo, V to the Izzy. Sheezy Mine Easy. That's a Kanye West beat, Hot Dog. People didn't know that at the time. With the Jackson 5 sample and everything in it, that's a Kanye West beat. There's so many Kanye beats on there. But Kanye was still not really being taken seriously as a rapper. Now, you can watch in the documentary, and he had this vision, right? And it's so interesting when you're watching somebody with a vision who's like pushing against a wall, because that's what Kanye is doing. He's pushing against a wall. And it's really interesting because you're watching this guy in probably 2001 is when it must have been. 2001, 2002. And he's sitting there and he's telling all these people, I'm going to be a rapper. I'm going to be a rapper. And people are like, yeah, definitely, dude. Definitely. And it's like everybody is being so condescending to him.
Like they were talking to a child. Oh, yeah, sure.
100%. 100%. And like clearly just being nice to him because and you see it in so many of the scenes. Like he's like, I'm going to be a rapper. They're like, oh, spit a verse. And they're like, oh, that's hot. That's hot. Yo, can I get that beat, by the way? And Kanye, like, the spirit is just drained from his face. It's soul-sucking. And he just goes, yeah. And he knows they're not taking him seriously. They're just trying to get beats from him. But he's got to give him the beats, and he does give him the beats. But, like, he's got to sit there, and he's got to take his retainer out. You see the scene where he's playing Family Business for Scarface? And they're in the studio, and Scarface is like, the fuck is that? And Kanye's like, oh, that's my retainer, dog. And he's like, you got that shit in your mouth? He's sitting right there like he's so grossed out by the fact that Kanye had to put his retainer.
It is gross.
Of course it's gross. His retainer is a star of the show. But my point is, I mean, he has this scene. It's this beautiful scene. He shows up. He's playing All Falls Down. All Falls Down is an incredible song. And he's sitting there, and he's putting it on the boombox so that these executive assistants, because he can't even get a meeting with the executive assistants are just listening, and they're literally laughing at him as he puts All Falls Down on the boombox. And he's going, man, I promise. She's so self-conscious and like couldn't afford a car, so she named her daughter Alexis. And they're like, okay, I got it. wordplay. And it's like, he's right. This is a single. This is going to push the genre forward. This is going to change music. And they're like, okay, Kanye. And it's amazing to literally be able to watch this process. And that's why when you sit there and look at Kanye now and he goes, you can't tell me nothing, I'd be like, I wouldn't be listening to anybody either. Because you know what happened? If he had listened to people, all the stuff that he knew was right, he wouldn't have done. And
the
that
same condescending tone that he heard back then, he hears now.
And so it's like, why would he listen to it? Why would he take advice? Because the advice he got was bad. All of it was bad. He's sitting there. He's playing Jesus Walks for Scarface. And Scarface is like, okay, cool. It's Jesus Walks. You know? And then, I mean, this guy, he tries so hard to get a record deal, The A&R guy's like, I like you. No, I couldn't convince him. No, I couldn't. Nobody is giving him a record deal. He produced the whole blueprint.
You don't think that's enough?
Dude, I thought I feel like by the way, he did more for the blueprint than like you do for me, Hot Dog. And like, I feel like I'm like, yo, Hot Dog is my dude. I'm going to ride with that dude because he's done something for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like he's at least like, he's a good dude. Like he's been my guy. And then I'm watching here and like, you can see it in Kanye's eyes. Like he's got no relationship at all with Jay-Z. I feel like if somebody gave me all the instrumentals for the blueprint, I'd be like, yo, dude, you are my fucking guy forever. Like you're my guy. And like, it's literally 6 months after the blueprint came out, and he's like, not allowed to make eye contact with Jay-Z.
He's at the Rockefeller party. And
hey, it's me.
He just got like a nod.
I know. It's me, Kanye. You know, it's me, Kanye. Beyonce doesn't even look at him. You kidding me? What happens when you come over? Jess is like, oh, Shay, I'm so happy you're here. I go, don't call him Shay. Do not humanize him. Okay? It's not going to work.
Not in front of the kids.
Yeah, no. No, you can't give him a sense of identity. Otherwise, the cult will never take off, Jess. What are you doing? He's sitting there like, you know, all like a chihuahua, like a shaken chihuahua. And I'm like, this guy did everything. And then at the end of part 1, when they do the press conference to announce the new people at Rockefeller Records, and it's like, yo, here's Beanie Siegel. Here's Freeway. Like, here's all these guys. Kanye's not even sitting at the table. Kanye's backstage. And he's like trying to talk to the cameras. Like, yeah, I'm a producer, but I'm a rapper too. And everybody's like he's talking to like the Sam Roberts of the early days, like the kid who brought his own camera because all the real outlets are talking to the other quote unquote real rappers. And it's like, dude, this is the Jeen-Yuhs. And he's not getting the time of day. It's so crazy to watch. You see him buy that porn in New York City?
No, I saw the whole thing. I must have missed that part.
Oh, it's so funny. He's like, you might have to turn that camera off. I got an addiction. And he buys an issue. He buys an issue of Blacktail magazine from a newsstand in New York City.
Nice.
And they're like, okay, that'll be $8. And he goes, $8? But he still gets his Blacktail magazine. But you see, like, this mom of his, Donda, what a woman. What an amazing woman. She sits there, and not only is she instilling confidence in her son, but she is taking a direct interest in what he's doing. Like, she's got favorite verses. Like, Kanye can, and this is before Kanye's got any albums. He's just spitting verses in the house. Mm-hmm. And his mom is like, that's a good verse. I didn't like that verse so much, but this one is really good. And like, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Like, she's pushing this kid to be like, she's like a college professor or something like that. She's like a woman. Teacher. Yeah, she comes from English. She comes from education. And she sees that her son is going to be this artist, and it's just pushing him. Not even in and not in a toxic way, just in a like, You're doing this, baby. You're doing great. But like, you can't not watch this doc and go like, yeah, I mean, this is everything that happened to Kanye is everything that's wrong with the industry. All the gatekeeping, all the people that weren't taking him seriously, all the people that weren't listening. It's like, dude, it was right there. It was literally available to everyone. And everyone said, that guy's a fucking dork. Like,
I mean, it was, 2000, 2001 when the scene was, you got to portray like a tough image and be from the street and all that stuff.
It's a little heavy on Cootie.
Oh, very self-indulgent. Very.
He's like, by the way, let me tell you about my mom too. I'm like, I mean, I guess for context, but I don't know if you need to. Yeah. Like, I kind of feel like when they put out the Beatles documentary, imagine if Peter Jackson was like, then I found this footage. And I'd be like, get out of here, Peter. I want to hear what Paul has to say. Like, what are you doing?
I found this videotape of Kanye in 2003.
Now, I know you're wondering why I dropped everything. I know you dropped everything, Cootie. I heard you. Respect to you.
It was a good 5 minutes of that. Good 5 minutes. And at the time, Kanye moved to New York City. And I dropped my whole career to go follow him.
He mentions it like 6 times throughout. And respect to Cootie. He did a great job. And he did a great thing. And he had a great vision. He was right on the money. But you could just show that in your work. You don't have to tell me. You know? Oh. So, yeah. I mean, I think it really does... part 1, anyway. And maybe we'll do more reviews on part 2 and part 3. But it gives a pretty amazing insight to Kanye Titta.